Welcome back, everyone, to another deep dive into the AI and tech world. Today, we have a lot to unpack. The EU is making big moves with their AI Act. Google's making some questionable decisions. And there's a new player out of China that's really turning heads.
Yeah, sounds like we've got a pretty full plate. Should we start with this EU AI Act? It's officially in full effect now.
Definitely big development. So this means that the EU has basically outlawed certain AI systems, right?
Yeah, that's right. Anything that they deem an unacceptable risk is now banned. Things like social scoring systems and some types of facial recognition are out.
Wow, so the EU is really putting its foot down, huh?
Yeah, they are. A lot of people are praising them for setting a precedent
Yeah.
for, prioritizing ethical development and all that.
Makes sense. But I'm sure not everyone's happy about it. I mean, especially with the US and China really pushing the boundaries on AI. It seems like these regulations could put European companies at a disadvantage.
Yeah, that's the argument some critics are making. They're saying that these regulations could stifle innovation and make it difficult for European companies to compete, especially against companies that are focused on just building bigger and more powerful models. Dion Bogdanov over at Payhawk, he's the director of engineering intelligence there. He actually had an interesting take on this. He thinks that while the US and China are all about size, Europe's actually taking the lead when it comes to trustworthy AI.
Hmm. So it's like two different philosophies then.
Yeah.
Biggest versus best, basically.
Exactly. Bogdanov actually argues that things like bias detection and human oversight, those aren't limitations. They're actually essential elements of good AI.
That's a good point. It's not just about what AI can do, but how it does it right.
Right. But even focusing on ethics brings its own set of challenges. Prince Constantine of the Netherlands, he said he's worried that Europe's focus on being good regulators might actually limit their ambitions, in terms of really leading in AI innovation.
I see. So it's a balancing act then. How to promote ethical development without stifling progress.
Right. It'll be really interesting to see how this all plays out over time.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of making waves, Google's been getting some heat lately for quietly dropping their pledge to not develop AI for weapons.
Yeah, they really backtracked on that one. Their initial pledge back in 2018, that was a pretty big deal. A lot of people saw it as, a real commitment to ethical AI. So this reversal has people questioning their motivations for sure.
So what do you think is behind this shift?
Well, the AI landscape has changed a lot since 2018. The competition is much fiercer now, especially with China really stepping up their game. It seems like Google's feeling the pressure to stay ahead, even if it means compromising some of their ethical stances.
I guess that makes sense from a business perspective.
Yeah.
But it does raise some serious questions about where we draw the line. I mean, the potential for AI in warfare and surveillance is huge, but is it a line we should be crossing at all?
Yeah, it's a really tough question. There's no easy answer. It's definitely something that needs to be discussed on a global level, though.
I agree. All right, so let's move on to something a little less heavy. This story out of China is pretty fascinating. This startup called DeepSeek has developed a generative AI model that's rivaling some of the biggest names in the industry.
DeepSeek R1, right. Yeah, they've come out of nowhere. It's pretty impressive what they've been able to achieve.
Yeah, I mean, they're going head-to-head with giants like OpenAI and Google. How are they managing to pull this off?
Well, one factor is that they're able to attract some top AI talent in China. It seems like the appeal of Silicon Valley is fading for some, especially as China's AI sector continues to grow.
I see. So DeepSeek is basically giving OpenAI a taste of their own medicine.
In a way, yeah. OpenAI accused DeepSeek of copying ChatGPT, which is ironic considering OpenAI is dealing with its own copyright claims right now.
Oh, wow. That's a pretty wild twist.
Yeah, it is. But even with facing bans in some countries over security concerns, DeepSeek's progress is undeniable. They've achieved some really impressive results, and they're getting a lot of attention from investors and researchers.
This is definitely a story we'll need to keep an eye on. Now, before we move on, let's talk about another development from OpenAI. They just launched a new feature for ChatGPT Pro called Deep Research.
Oh, yeah, I've heard about that. It's supposed to be pretty revolutionary.
Yeah, they're claiming it's a game changer for research. Can you give us a rundown of what it actually does?
Well, imagine having an AI that can sift through tons of information online and then synthesize it, analyze it, and present you with a comprehensive report. And it even cites its sources just like a human researcher would.
That sounds incredible, like
Yeah.
a dream come true for anyone who spends hours doing research.
Right. But of course, it's not perfect. It's still under development, and it can make mistakes. It's important to remember that it's a tool to assist with research, not to replace human judgment completely.
So basically, it's like a super powerful research assistant.
Mhm.
But you still need to double-check its work.
Exactly. And on top of that, it's only available to ChatGPT Pro users, which is a pretty hefty $200 per month.
Wow, so not exactly accessible to everyone.
Right. And even then, users in the EU, UK, and Switzerland are facing delays because of those ongoing regulatory challenges we talked about earlier.
So again, we see the EU's commitment to AI ethics having a direct impact on the rollout of these technologies.
Yeah, it's a conversation that's going to keep shaping the future of AI.
All right, well, let's shift gears a bit and talk about something more positive. The potential for AI to contribute to global sustainability efforts.
Yeah, this is something I'm really passionate about. We've already seen how AI can help companies become more efficient, reduce their environmental impact and all that, but it has the potential to do so much more.
So what's the big picture here? How can AI really make a difference in the fight for sustainability?
Well, AI can tackle some of the most urgent challenges we're facing. Climate change, resource depletion, pollution, you name it. Imagine using AI to monitor deforestation in real time, or predict and prevent wildfires, or even to design more efficient solar panels.
Wow, those are some pretty powerful examples. It seems like AI could really be a game changer in this area.
It really could. And we're already seeing some real-world applications. Southwest Airlines is using AI to automate aircraft repairs, which not only makes things more efficient, but also helps them reduce waste.
That's pretty clever. Fixing things faster means less downtime and a smaller environmental footprint overall.
Right. And GE Aerospace is another great example. They're using AI for predictive maintenance in their aircraft engines.
Predictive maintenance, what is that?
Basically, it's using AI to anticipate maintenance needs before any problems even arise. Algorithms analyze data from sensors in the engines, and they can detect subtle changes that might indicate a potential issue down the line.
So it's all about preventing problems rather than reacting to them.
Exactly. It saves time, resources, and reduces waste.
Working smarter, not harder.
That's the idea. GE Aerospace is proving that it's possible to use AI to make a real difference.
That's really inspiring. But of course, every technology has its downsides. What are some of the potential risks we should be aware of when it comes to AI and sustainability?
Well, one concern is that AI development itself could actually contribute to environmental problems. The energy required to train and run these large AI models is significant. So we need to make sure that AI development is sustainable in its own right.
That's a valid point.
And then there's the issue of data bias. We need to make sure that AI systems used for sustainability are trained on diverse and representative data. Otherwise, we risk perpetuating existing inequalities.
Right. It's all about responsible development and deployment. We need to be mindful of the potential risks while still pushing for innovation and progress.
Absolutely.
Well, on that note, I think we'll wrap up part 1 of our deep dive here. We've covered a lot of ground today, but there's still plenty more to discuss. So make sure to join us for part 2, where we'll delve deeper into the technical details of OpenAI's deep research feature and explore the true potential of AI for sustainability. See you then.
Researchers are definitely working on that, trying to make those models more efficient. It's a challenge, but an important one for sure. And you also have to consider the potential for data bias. Like if the data used to train these AI systems isn't diverse enough, it could end up making things worse instead of better.
Right. So it's not just about the technology itself. It's about how we use it.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, let's circle back to that deep research feature from OpenAI. It sounds really impressive on the surface. But what's going on under the hood? What are the technical details that make this thing tick?
Well, they're using an optimized version of their upcoming O3 model, specifically designed for tasks like, browsing the web, reasoning, interpreting data, all that. It works independently, so you give it a prompt. And it basically creates a research plan. Then it goes out and gathers the data, analyzes it, and then puts together a report for you.
So it's more than just a fancy search engine.
Oh, yeah, it's much more than that. It can actually understand and synthesize information from multiple sources.
What kind of advanced capabilities are we talking about here?
Well, for one, it can handle user-uploaded files, so you can feed it information directly. It can also generate and iterate on graphs using Python code.
Wait, it can understand Python?
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. And it can even embed images from sources directly into its reports.
Wow, that's pretty powerful. But you mentioned earlier that it's not without its limitations. What are some of the things that users should be aware of?
Well, like any AI system, it's still under development. Its ability to understand information is still evolving, so it can make mistakes. It's really important to remember that it's a tool to help with research, not a replacement for human critical thinking.
So don't just blindly accept everything it tells you.
Exactly. And of course, there's the cost and availability issue. It's only available to ChatGPT Pro users. And it's not cheap.
Yeah, we talked about that earlier.
Right. So it's definitely not accessible to everyone.
All right, well, let's dive back into the topic of AI for sustainability. You mentioned that this is something you're really passionate about. We talked about some specific examples. But what's the bigger picture here? What's the true potential of AI when it comes to tackling global sustainability challenges?
I think AI has the potential to revolutionize how we approach these issues. Like imagine using AI for conservation efforts, monitoring endangered species, tracking deforestation patterns, even predicting and preventing wildfires.
Yeah, that could really make a difference.
Absolutely. And it goes beyond conservation, too. AI can help us develop new sustainable technologies. Imagine AI helping us design more efficient solar panels or developing new methods for carbon capture and storage.
So it's not just about fixing the problems we've already created. It's about creating a more sustainable future from the ground up.
Exactly. And we can't forget about education and awareness. AI can help us educate people about the importance of sustainability and empower them to make more environmentally conscious choices.
I like that, empowering people to be part of the solution.
Right. Imagine AI-powered apps that help people track their carbon footprint or make more sustainable shopping choices.
That's a great idea. Making sustainability personal and accessible to everyone.
Exactly.
But of course, we have to be realistic. There are potential downsides to all of this. We talked about the energy consumption of AI development. But are there other risks we need to be thinking about?
Definitely.
Yeah.
One concern is the potential for unintended consequences. Like if an AI system designed to optimize agricultural efficiency ends up prioritizing yield over biodiversity, that could actually have a negative impact on the environment.
That's a good point.
We need to make sure that these AI systems are designed with a holistic view of sustainability, taking into account all the interconnected factors, environmental, social, and economic.
Right. It's all about balance.
Exactly. And another risk is the potential for AI to be used for greenwashing. Companies could use AI to make themselves look more sustainable without actually making any real changes.
That's a scary thought.
It is. So transparency and accountability are going to be really important.
Absolutely. It seems like the key to all of this is responsible development and deployment.
I agree. We need to be aware of the risks, but we also need to foster innovation and progress.
Right. It's a delicate balance.
It is. And it all comes back to the broader discussion about AI ethics and governance. As AI becomes more powerful and more integrated into our lives, it's more important than ever to have clear guidelines and regulations in place.
Yeah, the EU's AI Act is a big step in the right direction.
It is, but it's just the beginning of a global conversation.
Speaking of global developments, remember that Chinese AI startup we were talking about earlier? DeepSeek.
Yeah, what about them?
Well, it turns out they've developed a new AI model, and it's been trained using significantly fewer advanced chips than what's typically used.
Really? So they're achieving comparable results with less sophisticated hardware.
That's what it seems like.
That's impressive.
Yeah, a lot of experts are saying this could be a game changer.
It could really democratize AI development, challenge the dominance of these companies that rely on all that expensive hardware.
It's definitely something to watch. Now let's go back to OpenAI for a second. There's been another interesting development with their deep research feature.
Oh, what's that?
They've announced that they're working on integrating a fact-checking mechanism.
Oh, wow. That's big. One of the biggest concerns with these AI research tools is the potential for misinformation.
Right.
So a fact-checking mechanism could really help with that.
They haven't released all the details yet, but they're saying they're exploring different approaches, like cross-referencing information with trusted sources and analyzing the credibility of the sources that are cited in the reports. They're even considering using human reviewers for some topics.
That's a pretty ambitious undertaking.
It is.
But if they can pull it off, it could really enhance the reliability of deep research.
It would definitely make people more confident in using it.
Yeah, it would be a major step towards mitigating the risks of AI-generated content.
This really highlights how AI development is constantly evolving.
It does.
And it's good to see that responsible innovation is becoming more of a priority.
Absolutely. As AI continues to advance, we need to make sure that it's being developed and used in a way that benefits everyone.
Couldn't agree more. Yeah, it's encouraging to see that happening. These companies taking steps to address the ethical concerns. It shows that they're at least aware of the potential problems. Speaking of ethics, we should probably talk more about that EU AI Act. It's been called a landmark piece of legislation, setting a new standard for AI regulation. Can you give us a little more detail on what it actually entails?
Well, the EU AI Act is pretty unique in its approach. It categorizes AI systems into 4 different risk levels: unacceptable risk, high risk, limited risk, and minimal risk.
So it's not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing.
Right. They recognize that different AI applications have different levels of risk, so they need to be regulated accordingly.
Makes sense. So what are the implications for each of these risk categories?
Well, anything that's deemed an unacceptable risk is strictly prohibited in the EU, like those social scoring systems we talked about earlier,
Sure.
and certain types of facial recognition.
Okay, and what about high-risk systems?
High-risk systems are those that have the potential to significantly impact people's lives. Things like healthcare, law enforcement, financial systems. For these systems, the AI Act sets some pretty strict requirements. Things like data quality, transparency, human oversight, accountability.
So it's not just about banning certain types of AI. It's about establishing clear standards for how AI systems are developed and deployed.
That's right. The goal is to make sure that AI is used in a way that benefits society, while also protecting people's rights and safety.
It sounds like the EU is really trying to get ahead of the curve on this.
They are, and it's definitely something that other countries are paying attention to as they try to figure out how to regulate this rapidly evolving technology.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. This has been a really fascinating conversation. We've covered a lot of ground today, from the EU's groundbreaking AI Act to the surprising rise of DeepSeek to the potential of AI for sustainability. It's clear that AI is going to continue to shape our world in profound ways. So as we wrap up our deep dive today, what's the one key takeaway you would leave our listeners with?
I would say that the world of AI is constantly changing. It's full of incredible opportunities, but also complex challenges. So it's more important than ever to stay informed, to engage in thoughtful discussions about the implications of these technologies, and to advocate for responsible AI development.
Well said. Thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your expertise.
It's been my pleasure.
And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in. We'll be back again soon with another deep dive into the world of AI and tech. Until then, stay curious and keep exploring.